is Sergeant Beast Larson. Welcome to part 4 in the series CO Life. I'm going to talk about feed off, chow time. One of your most hated and feared or most loved times during your shift. Let's compare. We're going to start with the county detention center, the county jail, before talking about the prison. Remember, I'm retired from police. For those of you that are new to this series, retired police. I worked 4 years in a max security prison in Georgia. Also, I worked in a county detention center. Now I'm recovering from some shoulder surgery. Unrelated. County detention. Normally, I would take one of the porters, one or two of the inmate orderlies. We'd go down the cafeteria, a couple trays already set out. We already knew how many. And the volume of meals is a lot smaller in the county than it is at a prison. So we might only need, 450, 500 meals. A couple trays set up, they'd grab it, we'd roll down, and I had my sheet, my order list, so I knew each dorm how many they got. Go to the door, the officer inside the dorm, door gets buzzed, the officer, maybe one inmate inside would help, one like a dorm rep, come and wheel it in, and that's it. It's really simple in county detention. Two things really to be worried about. Number one, there still is potential. There's gangs, there's gang life, there's gambling, there's threats made, and there's just tension. It's a problem. It's jail. They're not the best, obedient citizens. So there is that risk that during that rolling the tray into the door, they can attack. Now you've not pat them down, there's no strip search. So when you go grab somebody, grab your porter, your orderly, hey, let's go feed chow, you don't know if he's got any weapons on him. So he can attack with his hands or with a weapon in that instant before you even realize it. So always be on the lookout for an attack during that feed off there at the detention center. Secondly is contraband. That's one of the few times where they have connection or interaction with another inmate outside of their dorm. County detentions, they stay. There might be that little rec area right there, buzz the door and they go out. 2 or 3 people in there at a time, especially with COVID. And that's it. There's no interaction with people in the other pods, the other dorms. So that's your 2 big risks to think and plan and watch for if you're the officer doing that. Now let's talk about prison. Our prison had a little over 1,000 inmates. We had several different buildings, like dorm A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Each one had 2 sides, A1, A2. So you've got a booth officer and you've got a dorm officer or 2 per building. I'm going to break this and separate it between the general population and the ISO-SEG, the tier units, the lockdown units. So general population first. Ours, we had 2 chow halls, north and south. And our CERT team was outside to control mass movement. We had fencing every which way. So our rule, only one dorm's going to come out at a time, and that's for safety. And there has to be 2 locked, secured gates in the walkway between dorms if you have more than one. So using my fingers as an example, say this is A, B, C, D, E, and then over here you may have Y, F, G, H. So we may call A1 to come out down the walk to approach this way. Once they get in and get secure in a chow hall, say the north chow hall, and we call Y to come out. So you do this separately because you don't want them together. Now, a dorm, they might get along inside the dorm, but once they're outside and they know between buildings there's not camera. So it's the officer's body cameras to record things at the most. So we'd have the dorm officer walk them up to chow. CERT guys would be there, at least 2 of them, to help with this mass movement to get them from the dorm up to the chow hall. You still have high potential for violence, many stabbings, many fights. In the dorm, there's a little more protection. When you're walking single file, you don't have your 5 buddies surrounding you all the time. So somebody cuts in the line, they're single file. Next thing you know, he's attacking somebody from behind. we always made them walk with their hands behind their back. That way they weren't making a forward motion, and you could see that easier from a distance. So be aware of that. They can also pass contraband because they're spread out and it's harder to watch them. So contraband fights are a big risk while they're walking single file. They get into the chow hall. You still have that same contraband risk. We have 12 to 15 kitchen orderlies that were inmates and an officer inside. So they're working, moving freely back in the kitchen area. The inmates, they're separated in this building by one wall. So they can't pass to the other side. They can't connect with anybody between north and south. So they hand everything, anything they might have, weapons, drugs, tobacco, through the kitchen guy now. So I'm sitting right here like the doorway in between these two windows for a reason. We always had a cert guy or a lieutenant standing at the window where the food came out. Many jobs of this person standing there. I did this many days. I like doing this just because I like keeping control. Obviously, yes, you're looking for any assaults, reaching in or out between inmates or, with weapons in our hands. And you're looking for contraband. Hey, Sarge, can I do this? Hey, Sir, can I do this? Can I give him this? This is my buddy. I want to give him his headphones. And that's up to you. That's up to your policies. Little things like that, we didn't sweat it, but we would examine it. We'd examine books. We'd flip through, open the books. Stuff like that, let them pass. I mean, most of these guys are doing life. They're passing a book and they're reading, they're educating. They're not doing other bad things, right? So there's the fighting, there's the contraband. And here's another one that's equally important to many people, and is the food distribution. You have to make sure, as I was standing like this and they're in front of me, the inmate in the window right here where my hand would pass through the tray. You have to make sure everybody gets the exact amount of food and all the portions have to be present, nothing missing. Because as soon as somebody's missing a roll or a brownie, or somebody gets 3 and everybody gets 1, they're going to say it. They're going to call them out. Gang stuff or not, they're going to call it out. Hey, I didn't get this, he didn't do that. And there's times that the guys working in the kitchen were just eating off the tray. They were, they get ready past the tray, they don't like this other inmate, no, go ahead and eat his brownie in front of him. And then we get a hold of the officer and get that guy removed, make sure that the inmate receiving the tray did get his brownie, whatever, make sure it was equal to everybody else. And that was our responsibility to make sure. What did we talk about in CO life, in the academy? Fair, firm, and consistent. They all have to eat the same food tray, fairly and equally. That's being consistent. You don't let them, oh, hey, this guy's this, he's okay, he'll have whatever. No, if anybody gets extra food or extra tray, it has to be known to everybody. Now, the first one that would come in from the dorm would do cleanup. He'd get a wet rag, clean the tables off, make sure everything was ready to eat and presentable. He would get an extra tray for doing that, and they would take turns. Everybody knew he's going to get 2 trays for that meal. Nobody else gets extra. Then you've got to worry about, your vegan line. They get different things. Is their portions equal? Then the diabetics, anybody's getting an extra sandwich and snack for later to take back, to keep their sugar levels high. There's a list. Check off the list. No taking food back to the buddies. You guys got policies like we did. None of that taking that back. So it's a very, very intense procedure. It's also one of the times where they're all freely open in a big room that's not their dorm. Now, it's kind of the saying of if 2 guys want to meet to go fight, are they going to go in their kitchen and living room and fight and break the furniture? No, their wives will kill them, right? You go to a room where there's nothing, it's not their dorm, not their home life, they're ready to fight. So the chow hall is considered the dining hall, the most dangerous place for inmates to be together without being secure. So keep that in mind when you're ready to go. We always had a lieutenant and 2 certs in each dorm, with each dorm coming in. And when you're looking at sometimes having minimum 6 to 8 officers for a 64-man dorm come in because of gang tension, that's intense. That's a lot. There's nothing like that in detention and county jails. You guys haven't experienced that. Now, I was on the cert team for a year, and it seems like my whole work, 85% of my work was dealing with chow, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From the beginning time, it take 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes. Then we go and eat, do a couple little things, and then here comes the next meal time. It's that much time. It's time consuming. But you have to do that, and you have to be careful. You have to be safe. Now let's talk about the lockdown units. This creates a whole different, unique set of problems. Usually it was the supervisor would take a couple orderlies. So as the sergeant, it was me. Whether I was we had a tier 1 and a tier 2, both. I take my couple orderlies, we go up to the chow hall. I have my list. I knew, D2, E dorms, whatever, your F, G, and H if you're in tier 2, for example. How many inmates, how many vegan trays I needed, any special diet trays, because they're gonna have allergies. Allergies to noodles, allergies to nuts, allergies to hamburger. You name it, they're gonna come up with an allergy, the inmates. So it's in their profile, the kitchen knows this, and it should be printed on your list when you go up. So I would go up and make sure I had everything that I needed. We always got a couple extra trays because things can happen. They can fall off while you're rolling a tray down, your cart down. Accidental things can happen. And there's times when, because they are locked down, if they're missing brownies and rolls at lunch, you just can't easily make it up. So I tell them, hey, dinner's coming. I show them, write it in my notebook, F1, 110, he needs an extra roll from lunch. Write it down what it is. And I would just write it down and say this so the rest of the dorm would hear me and know I'm bringing him something extra because he was missing. Make sure everybody knows. Don't do things where they think it's secret and you're just giving them extra. Explain things, talk out loud, let the other guys hear it. It goes a long way because they know you're legitimately being consistent. You go get your food, you take it down there, nothing's falling off your cart, you're happy, you're at the dorm. Now, our policy was the officer's the one that would put the food in, take the trays out. So I'm opening the flap, your little square box, open the flap, put the food in. Now, risk for assault, risk for getting stabbed, risk for getting urine or feces squirted in your face, on your body while you're trying to feed them. This would happen all the time. County jails didn't risk this problem. Their ISO-SEG units are nothing like the prison ISO-SEG. Guys doing life and have no cares. So your first concern is your food. All the trays, again, have to be equal in your segregation units. And they're watching through that window to make sure. And I'm telling you, they have eagle vision. They can spot one brownie bigger than the other from 25 feet. So make sure what you're handed through there is equal to the other people, or you need to make it right. Keep things even. That way you won't have major problems in your dorm. So you've got the risk of them attacking you or squirting body fluids on you or putting blood on you, something like that. Say everything goes right, you hand it to them, make sure they have that in grip in their hand, because you start to hand it in and they'll throw it down and, I dropped my tray, I need another one. They always do this to new guys. And new guys like, oh, my bad, I dropped it, and give them a new tray. These guys are going to eat that tray off the floor and get this, they get 2 trays. They clean the room, they clean the floor. They're satisfied with eating off their own floor, 5-second rule like a candy bar. They'll scoop that up with their bare hands on a tray and they're eating it. So they're playing these games to manipulate, to get this extra. So you have to be aware of that. Usually when you're feeding them, they don't do anything. It's when you come back and pick the tray up. So say I go around, feed all my downstairs, carry stuff up, and there is manual labor in this. I was carrying a lot of trays and carrying the big cantinas, big jugs of juice, 5 gallons of juice up and downstairs, right with the orderlies. You don't want this to drag out forever. You want to hurry up and get it done. Everybody's fed, then you go back down where you started, start collecting trays. You tell everybody, hey, you're picking up trays now. Announce these things. You go to pick up trays, that's when they're most likely. That's when it's more risk to the officer for them to do something to harm you. So you go through and you get all the trays picked up, nothing's done physically, nothing harmful to you, but there still be a problem. Hey, I got this. Or I get a special diet and mine was messed up. And then you go check and verify. You go let the supervisor know, which was usually me. I get my phone call up there to the chow hall and the kitchen officer and tell them, hey, I need one of these. Don't let them pack up. I need this. I got to fix this problem for this diabetic or this allergy meal. Okay, so they'd make something right. I'd run up there once everybody was fed and get what I needed and take back. It's not a perfect world. You're not going to feed perfectly. and you try and feed 208 bed behavior unit, you're not going to have 208 people happy every meal. There's going to be 5 to 10 every single meal. Something's wrong, messed up, not happy, milk's spoiled, the milk's got a bad day, things you can't control. So be firm, be fair, be consistent, be fair. They're entitled to the meal, so you go up, you make that correction of that problem, take it back down, and you do that in a quick, timely manner, and everybody's happy. And then your dorm life, which I'll talk about in another video, will be much easier. Pretty simple. It's not simple, not simple at all. And it takes a while. It takes guys to get the hang of it, doing this thing. And before you work in ISO-seg units in a prison, you've pretty much worked several months in general population. You're handpicked to go down there by a sergeant, lieutenant, and the guys that are down there. And it's kind of like when there's an opening, somebody transfers or just gets done, tired of leaving, working that behavior unit kind of stuff, ISO-seg unit. They'll say, hey, Lieutenant, I need a break. I'm going to come out of there. I'm going to work GP. So then you handpick somebody who can talk and relate and deal and handle the inmates fair, firm, and consistent. You need somebody, because these behavior units, ISO-seg units, there's at least twice the potential for physical violence involving officers down there towards you. So you need somebody who's proven themselves they can handle themselves, walk with their shoulders up, walk with confidence, talk with confidence. So as you can kind of see, this series here is called CO Life for a reason. This is a life. I want people to get educated. Now, I've talked to 2 people over the weekend that are going from a county to a prison. They're changing jobs. And I said, hey, look at this stuff. Listen to what I'm saying. The prison is so much more involved because everything is structured by the clock. I mean, your life can be set on your watch in a prison. Everything is a routine. The routine is so routine, and it doesn't vary. So hopefully this gives you an idea, the difference, the complexities, the problems. And the last thing I'll tell you, yes, I've been involved in many use of forces in the chow hall. Inmates get the tray and try and throw it on my face. Well, we learned, and we would teach the guys, they come out and that tray starts to come up as fast as you can. You smack that tray, put the food right back in their face. They're going to dump food on my face. Why? A distraction technique to hit me. So like reverse psychology, I'm going to reverse that tray, it's going to hit them, and then I'm going to grab them. They're not getting me. They're not getting us officers, us CERT, us supervisors. They're gathered up and they see 3 or 4 of us. They got food, they're wound up, they're jumping up and down on tables, want to riot and go crazy. Takes a few minutes to get help. And they know. You call a code, it's going to take 2 to 3 minutes before you get the cavalry showing up. So when they want to fight, they're thinking 2 or 3 minutes we can get them officers. So be ready. You 3 or 4 against 60, 64, 45, whatever. You be ready. Know where your doors are, keep your backs against the wall, have your plan. There's times we tell people they start acting up, we'll tell them, step outside. No. Yeah, you're going outside. We grab their arm, escort them outside. Now, we're not grabbing and crushing their arm. Remember how you were taught to escort. We got their arm, we're escorting them outside. And there's times they would turn and, swing, do things. We would physically throw them out the door. Officer opens the door, we throw somebody out the door. We come, they get out the door, the officer shuts the door and locks the door. That way his other 59 buddies don't try and run out there and try and jump on you. I've been on the sidewalk and the use of force looking up at the window, like these windows behind me here in the chow hall, and beating their heads, beating their hands.